I was cleaning his wounds when he called me his mate. Chapter 1, Blood and Moonlight. The night smelled of iron and rain. Maren pressed a torn cloth against the gash running across the Alpha's ribs, her hands slick with blood that didn't belong to her. He didn't flinch. Didn't move. He simply sat there, half wolf, half man, eyes glowing faintly gold in the firelight, while thunder rolled above the shattered roof of the pack hall. She shouldn't have been there. Omegas didn't touch Alphas. It was one of the first rules drilled into her since she could walk. Yet here she was, kneeling between his legs, her fingers trembling as she tried to stop the bleeding of a creature who could tear her throat out with a single growl. "Hold still," she murmured, though her voice shook. Rowan's gaze dropped to her hands, his breath a low rumble. "You think I'm the one moving?" His voice was smoke and gravel, rough, commanding, threaded with something that made her pulse quicken. Maren swallowed hard, dabbing at the wound again. "It's deep. You should have let the healers see to you. They're dead." The words landed like a blade between them. Her fingers froze. "All of them?" He didn't answer, he didn't need to. The silence said enough. Outside, lightning split the sky, illuminating the ruins of the battlefield beyond the open doorway. Bodies, smoke, and mud. The aftermath of a war she had no part in, but that had already stolen everything she loved. "You shouldn't have stayed," he said quietly, studying her face. "Most of your kind ran." "I don't run," Maren said, too quickly. Then, softer, "Not anymore." Something flickered in his eyes, amusement, maybe admiration. It was gone too fast to tell. She leaned closer, wiping away the last of the blood. The scent of him hit her, wild pine, smoke, and rain. Her heart tripped over itself. "Done," she whispered, sitting back. "You'll heal by morning." Rowan's hand shot out before she could move away. His fingers wrapped around her wrist, firm, unyielding. "You stayed," he said, as if testing the sound of it. "Why?" Her breath caught. "Because someone had to." For a heartbeat, neither spoke. The fire crackled. The storm raged. Then his eyes softened, the gold dimming to molten amber. "No one's touched me without fear in years." Maren's pulse skipped. "Then maybe you've been spending too much time as a monster." His lips curved, just slightly. "And maybe you're too brave for your own good." Before she could respond, his thumb brushed the back of her hand. A spark flared, something raw and electric, like lightning under her skin. Maren froze, staring at him. His voice dropped to a whisper. "You feel it too," he murmured. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me, little wolf." Her heart slammed against her ribs. She tried to pull away, but his grip only tightened, not cruelly, just certain. "Say my name," Rowan said. She shook her head. "Alpha." "No. My name. Rowan." He exhaled like it was a prayer. "Good." The storm outside broke then, a crack of thunder shaking the hall, but neither of them moved. Because in that moment, Maren realized something far worse than fear had taken root in her chest, something that would destroy her if she let it grow. She was falling for the Alpha King. And he knew it. Chapter 2, The Healer and the King. Morning arrived sullen and gray, the kind of light that made ruins look older. Maren had slept in a chair beside the hearth, chin to chest, one hand still wrapped in the Alpha's torn shirt. When she startled awake, Rowan was already watching her, too still, too aware, like a storm deciding where to break. "You didn't leave," he said. "You were bleeding." She pushed to her feet, suddenly conscious of how small she was in his shadow. Someone had to change the bandage. He glanced at the ragged dressing, already sticky with dark blood. "I heal fast." "Not from silver," she said, and he went very quiet. Footsteps scraped across the hall. Beta Corvin appeared in the doorway, flanked by 2 soldiers. Scar over one eye, jaw set like iron. He looked at Maren as if she were a stain on the flagstones. Omega, he said, the word of verdict. The council wants the Alpha. Alone. Rowan didn't move. The council can wait. Corvin's nostrils flared. We lost 2 dens, 3 scouts, and the east wall. The packs are growling for blood and answers. They'll get both, Rowan said, voice low and lethal. But I will not be summoned from my own hall. Corvin's gaze flicked to Maren. What is she doing here? She stayed, Rowan said. Corvin snorted. Until she steals what isn't hers. Maren's spine snapped straight. I'm not a thief. Everyone is, when the wolf is hungry enough. Rowan stood, the motion unhurried and terrifying. Leave us, Beta. Corvin hesitated, then bowed stiffly and withdrew. The soldiers ghosted after him, the door yawning open to cold air and the stink of rain. Maren swallowed. They hate me. They hate weakness, Rowan said. And anyone who reminds them they bleed. Her hands trembled. I don't belong here. He stepped closer, the distance between them dissolving. You belong where you were brave. A low, involuntary sound left her throat, half laugh, half plea. You don't know me. I know enough. His eyes dipped to the inside of her wrist. Show me your mark. Heat crawled up her neck. I don't. Show me. She turned her wrist. A pale crescent, faint as breath, lived there, something she'd kept hidden all her life with wraps and sleeves. The room seemed to tighten around it. Rowan's jaw lifted a fraction. Moon touched. It's nothing, she said quickly. A birth scar. His mouth curved, humorless. The moon does not scar by accident. The hall boomed as the council doors opened across the courtyard. Voices poured in, angry, afraid. Names spat like curses. Traitor, butcher, king. A wolf somewhere began to howl and was silenced with a sharp command. Go, Maren whispered. If you don't face them now, they'll hunt me to get to you. Rowan's attention snapped back to her. Hunger threaded through the gold of his eyes, not for flesh, not for blood, for certainty. I will not leave you to their teeth. Then don't. She took a breath that tasted like iron. Take me with you. Something dangerous softened in him. He shrugged on a cloak, then lifted the clasp and, without warning, settled the weight across her shoulders too. It swallowed her, warm with his scent. Walk at my left, he said. That's the Luna's place, she blurted, pulse tripping. Today, it's the brave ones. They crossed the broken threshold together. Wolves turned. Conversations died mid-syllable. Even the rain seemed to hesitate. Corvin stood at the council table. Alpha, he said. You're late. Rowan's hand found the small of Maren's back, claiming without teeth, guiding without force. I was bleeding, he said. I stopped. An elder leaned forward, white braids draped like ropes. We smelled silver on the bolts. Someone fed our enemies. Eyes slid to Maren. She felt the weight of them like stones. Say it, Rowan invited softly. The elder obliged. An omega with a moon mark and soft hand survives when our healers die. Convenient. Rowan's smile was all fong. Convenient would be watching me bleed out and picking a new alpha. Maren's cheeks burned. She tried to shrink, then remembered the way he'd said walk at my left, and made herself taller. Search me, she said, voice steady. Search my room. Search my blood if you need to. I have nothing but calluses and bad dreams. A murmur rippled. Corvin's gaze cut to Rowan. You'll stake your crown on an Omega's word? Rowan's answer was a quiet blade. I'll stake my crown on what I felt when she touched me. A hush fell, curious, appalled, electrified. Fate, someone whispered. The word crawled over Maren's skin like fire. Rowan pinned the room with his eyes. We were ambushed by silver because I let Mercy walk too long without its teeth. That ends now. We hunt whoever fed our enemies. We rebuild the den wall before nightfall. And anyone who draws steel on the Omega who kept me breathing answers to me. The table wavered between defiance and relief. Corvin held the Alpha's gaze a beat too long, then dipped his chin. As you command. As the council dispersed, Rowan turned slightly toward Maren, voice for her alone. You asked why you stayed. She swallowed. Yes. Because you're mine, he said simply. And I am very, very hard to kill. Her breath stuttered. Somewhere deep in her chest, the crescent on her wrist warmed, an answer older than language. Outside, the rain eased. Inside, the wolves moved to their orders. And Maren, who had been no one yesterday, learned what it felt like to stand where the king wanted her most, at his left, between the knives and his heart. Chapter 3, Knives in the Walls. The council dispersed, but the unease did not. Maren could feel it trailing her like a cold wind as she followed Rowan through the echoing corridors of the keep. Wolves bowed as they passed, though none met her eyes. Loyalty in posture, suspicion in scent, the kind of balance that could snap at a single whisper. When they reached the war room, Rowan stopped before the map table. Pins marked the borders, most of them blackened where villages once stood. He leaned forward, palms braced, shoulders taut. There's a traitor inside the walls. Maren swallowed. You think it's Corvin? His jaw ticked. He's too proud to hide his disloyalty. No, someone smaller. Someone the rest of us wouldn't see. She hesitated. Like me. His eyes lifted. Exactly like you. It wasn't accusation. It was observation. And that somehow made it worse. Maren turned away, staring at the embers in the hearth. Then why keep me close? Rowan's reflection flickered behind her in the iron frame. Because I trust what I felt. And because the last person who touched me without fear is usually the one fate tries to kill first. She blinked hard. You talk like the bond is real. It is real. He stepped closer. I can smell it on your skin. Her breath caught. You're imagining things. He reached out, not to grab, not to command, just to trace the air near her wrist where the crescent mark glowed faintly through her sleeve. The warmth pulsed in time with her heartbeat, a low hum she couldn't explain. Maren, he said quietly, your mark isn't dormant anymore. She pulled back, clutching her wrist. It started glowing after the attack. I thought it was from your blood. It was my blood, he admitted. When you touched the wound, it wasn't healing. It was binding. Her stomach twisted. You mean? I mean I marked you without meaning to. His voice was low, steady, but his eyes betrayed something raw. Half the pack already suspects it. The other half will try to stop it. Maren's pulse roared in her ears. So I'm either a traitor or your Luna. Both, if we're lucky, he said darkly. Before she could reply, a howl tore through the courtyard, sharp, urgent, cut short by the sound of steel. Rowan's head snapped toward the door. Stay here. But she was already moving, following as he stormed into the open. Guards crowded near the outer gate, two bodies sprawled across the stones, sentries she'd spoken to only hours ago. Their throats were slashed, the scent of silver thick in the air. Inside job, Rowan growled. Maren's gaze darted toward the wall, where the iron bolt had been wrenched free. A glint of metal caught her eye, a pendant, half buried in mud. She knelt and lifted it, fingers trembling. The symbol etched on the back froze her blood, a crescent moon with a single drop carved beneath it. Not a threat. A signature. She handed it to Rowan, her voice barely a whisper. I've seen this before. Where? In the nursery, she said slowly. One of the servants wore it. Said it was an old charm for protection. Rowan's eyes hardened. Show me. They found the servant minutes later, a trembling boy barely old enough to shift. When Rowan demanded answers, the boy broke fast. They promised freedom, he choked. Said the Moonborn's death would end the curse. Maren froze. The Moonborn? Rowan's gaze snapped to hers. They mean you. The boy lunged then, too fast, too wild, a knife flashing silver in his hand. Rowan caught him mid-strike, slamming him against the stone wall. The blade clattered to the floor. Blood splattered Maren's cheek. When it was over, the boy's neck was broken, his body limp at Rowan's feet. For a moment, no one moved. The torches flickered, smoke curling between them like breath. Maren pressed her hand to her chest. He was just a child. He was a knife, Rowan said, voice flat. Someone else's hand. She stared down at the body, her mark burning hotter now, as if it sensed danger still coiled in the shadows. Rowan's hand found hers, warm, steady. Don't look away. You need to see what our world does to mercy. She met his gaze. And you need to remember what it feels like to have any. The words landed like a strike. He didn't reply, only studied her for a long, tense moment. Then he whispered, "You're not like them. And that scares you." His throat worked once. More than silver. Outside, thunder rolled again, the kind that warned of a second storm coming. Inside, Maren's crescent mark pulsed once, twice, then flared bright enough to light the walls. Something ancient had awakened. Chapter 4, The Bond of Blood and Silver. The mark would not dim. By nightfall, Maren's wrist glowed faintly beneath her sleeve, the crescent alive with pale fire. She tried binding it, covering it with ash, even soaking it in cold water from the well. But the light only pulsed harder, brighter, as if mocking her efforts. The whispers came next. They weren't voices, not exactly. More like the echo of her own heartbeat carrying meaning she didn't understand. Wake. Remember. Bind or burn. She sat on the edge of her bed in the healer's quarters, staring at her hand until the knock came. Rowan filled the doorway like a shadow. The torchlight caught in his hair, gilding the dark strands with copper. He wasn't wearing armor, just a loose linen shirt, collar open enough to show the scar where she'd first touched him. The sight of it made her throat tighten. "You're bleeding again," she murmured. "Silver doesn't let go easy," he said. His gaze flicked to her covered wrist. "Neither does fate." Maren tried to laugh, but it came out brittle. "That what this is? Fate?" He stepped inside, shutting the door behind him. "What else would make me want what I shouldn't?" The air between them thickened. She could feel his presence, not just his body, but the invisible force that made him Alpha. It was gravity, command, danger, and something else beneath it. "I'm not your mate," she said softly. His eyes darkened. "Then why do I feel your heartbeat when you're across the hall?" "Coincidence." "Try again." He moved closer, close enough that she could smell rain and iron on his skin. Her breath caught, and her hand brushed his chest, meant to push him back, but instead found warmth. Real, human warmth. The mark on her wrist flared in response. Rowan inhaled sharply, his voice dropping to a rough whisper. "It reacts to me. I can't control it. Don't." He caught her wrist gently, pressing his thumb to the glowing crescent. The world seemed to tilt, her pulse echoing in his, light spreading between them like threads of molten silver. Maren gasped. Visions slammed into her, snow, blood, a younger Rowan kneeling before a fire, a woman's scream fading into the night. His pain hit her like a blade. She saw his first kill, his first loss, his first crown, and the curse that came with it. When she staggered, he caught her. "Maren," he rasped, "what did you see?" "Everything," she whispered. "All of you." He pulled back, breath unsteady. "Then you know why you should run." She shook her head. "I saw the curse too. The bond doesn't just connect us, it's healing you." Rowan's expression hardened. At a cost. Her mark burned hotter. What cost? He didn't answer with words. Instead, he took her hand and pressed it flat against his chest. Beneath the scars, his heartbeat faltered, then skipped, matching hers exactly. If you stay near me, he said, voice rough, the bond strengthens. But if I fall, you die with me. Maren froze. You're lying. I wish I were. For a long time, they just stood there, the truth stretching between them like a blade neither wanted to touch. Then she whispered, what if I don't care? Rowan's eyes searched hers. You should. I don't. Her defiance cracked something in him. His hands cupped her face, his breath warm against her skin. You don't understand what that means. Then show me. The moment shattered whatever restraint was left between them. His lips found hers, rough, desperate, tasting of blood and thunder. The mark burned brighter, binding them in a halo of moonlight that spilled across the floor. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't even sane. It was survival dressed as surrender. When they finally pulled apart, both were shaking. He rested his forehead against hers. If the council finds out, they'll kill you. She managed a small, trembling smile. Then I'll have to make them regret it. Rowan laughed once, quiet, broken. You already do. Outside, the howls began again, long, low, and mournful. The pack could feel the shift in their alpha's scent, the change in the air. Bonds, after all, left traces. Inside the healer's room, Maren's mark dimmed at last, but it didn't fade. It pulsed softly, steady as her heartbeat. And Rowan, the cursed alpha who had never prayed, whispered against her hair. Moon, help me. I think she's going to save us all. Chapter 5, The Curse Unbound. The days after that night bled into each other, quiet mornings, loud hearts, and a secret that hummed beneath every breath they shared. The pack could feel it, though no one dared name it aloud. The alpha's scent had changed. The air itself felt charged, alive. Rowan tried to maintain order, training, patrols, repairs, but every time Maren entered a room, his control faltered. His voice softened. His gaze lingered. And for a man whose name once silenced entire battlefields, that softness was its own rebellion. But rebellion draws blood. It began with whispers. Then, with a scream. Maren was gathering herbs outside the walls when the first arrow struck, silver-tipped, hissing through the dusk. It grazed her shoulder and buried itself in the dirt, burning where it touched. She cried out, stumbling, clutching the wound. Before she could shift or hide, a group of wolves in black cloaks emerged from the tree line. Moonborn witch, one of them spat. You've cursed our king. Maren's breath came sharp. I've saved him. They raised their weapons. You doomed him. The world blurred. The next arrow never landed, because Rowan was already there. His roar shattered the air, primal and commanding, echoing through the forest like thunder. The attackers hesitated only an instant before he struck. Claws, teeth, fury. The fight was over before it began. The last survivor fled, howling back toward the valley. Rowan turned, chest heaving, his face streaked with blood and rain. You're hurt. I've had worse. She pressed a hand to her shoulder, flinching as the silver burned. He caught her wrist, eyes flaring. Don't be brave. Not with me. Then stop treating me like something fragile, she snapped. You keep saving me, and I keep surviving anyway. For a heartbeat, his anger flickered into something else, something like awe. He brushed her hair back, his thumb grazing her temple. You don't understand, Maren. You're keeping me alive. She frowned. What do you mean? The wound I took that night should have killed me. His voice was quiet, shaking at the edges. Every day you're near me, it fades. Every time you touch me, it heals. Maren stared at him. You said the bond would kill me if you fell. He nodded. I didn't know it works both ways. The realization settled heavy between them. Their lives weren't bound like a chain, they were a single thread. Pull one end, and the other unraveled. Before she could answer, the howl came again. Not from the woods this time, from inside the keep. Rowan's expression shifted from fear to fury. They've come for us. When they reached the courtyard, the scene was chaos. Dozens of wolves surrounded the dais, Corvin at their center, his sword gleaming in the torchlight. He saw them and smiled. The Alpha returns, with his curse. Rowan stepped forward, unarmed. You betray your pack. I free it. Corvin roared. You bring ruin. You bind yourself to an Omega born of witch blood, and we bleed for it. Look around, Rowan, our walls crack, our kin vanish, the moon burns red. She's not the curse, Rowan growled. She's the cure. Corvin raised his blade. Then prove it. Let her die, and show us the moon still favors you. Maren's stomach twisted. Rowan, don't. But he was already stepping in front of her. Touch her, and I'll rip your soul apart. The tension snapped like glass. Wolves lunged. Maren screamed as the battle erupted around them, snarls, steel, moonlight flashing on wet stone. Rowan tore through his own pack, desperation replacing dominance. But Corvin was no fool, he'd brought silver, and each strike bit deeper. Maren ran to his side, pressing her hand to his bleeding chest. You can't fight them all. He caught her gaze, gold fading to amber. If I fall, run. She shook her head violently. I told you. I don't run anymore. Then something inside her broke open. The mark on her wrist flared, spilling light so fierce it blinded them both. The air pulsed, vibrating like the heartbeat of the moon itself. Wolves stumbled back, covering their eyes. The silver melted in their hands. Maren's voice wasn't hers when she spoke. You would challenge the Alpha King of the Moonborn? The light consumed her, spreading into veins of fire across the stones. It poured through Rowan's wounds, sealing them shut. When she finally collapsed, he caught her, alive, breathing, glowing faintly against his chest. The courtyard fell silent. Every wolf dropped to one knee. Even Corvin bowed his head, his blade falling from numb fingers. Rowan looked up at the sky, where the clouds had parted to reveal a full white moon. She's mine, he said, voice hoarse but certain. Not by mark. By destiny. The moonlight answered him with a low shimmer that rippled through the pack. The curse was broken. The bond was not. He gathered Maren into his arms and carried her inside, her light dimming but steady. When she stirred hours later, she found his head resting beside her hand. You didn't run, he murmured without opening his eyes. Neither did you. He smiled faintly. Maybe we never will. Her fingers brushed his jaw. Then what now? His answer was quiet, certain. Now, we rebuild. She tilted her head. The pack? No, he said, eyes opening to meet hers. Us. Outside, the dawn rose pale and clean. The air smelled of pine and promise. And though the mark on her wrist had faded, its echo still pulsed, soft, steady, shared. The curse had ended. The story hadn't. The end. Thank you for listening to this paranormal short story. Like and subscribe to see more stories like this.